When was the last time you were bored? And how did you go about it? Boredom is a state of being that has gotten quite a bad reputation because only boring people get bored, right? We consume so much information and our mind is constantly stimulated, yet we feel so drained. This led me to do a deep dive on this subject. And quite frankly, I think it's not that bad. Wait, let me explain. Hi there family and friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Apsara, I'm a BioMed grad from UK, currently living in USA. And in this channel, we discover tools and tips that help us live happier, healthier and more productive lives. Today we're diving down the rabbit hole of boredom, which is something I'm very familiar with as a stay-at-home wife with no kids and no pets. And every time I felt bored, I had this overwhelming feeling of restlessness. It made me feel almost useless. And I tried to solve this by everything under the sun. Sometimes I binge watched a whole entire Netflix series. I even downloaded a TikTok account and the swiping saga started. I think we live in an overly stimulated world. Everything trying to grab our attention, and we're almost like zombies swiping from one tweet to the other. The harder I tried to fight the boredom, the more drained I felt. It was just a never-ending fight. So one fine, boring day, as I sat being really bored, I decided to do a deep dive in this subject. I wanted to get to the bottom of the cause and cure of it. I gained quite a lot of insight. I applied these tips into my life, and now, I can't believe I'm saying this, boredom is the best thing you can do for your brain. So let's explore what boredom is, why we avoid it, why we should embrace it, and how we can embrace it. So what is boredom? Boredom is a complex and subjective emotional state characterized by a lack of interest or engagement in one's current activity or surroundings. So it often arises when you are unstimulated or unchallenged by your environment. It can be triggered by repetitive tasks, unfulfilling activities, or your absence of goal or purpose. So how did this actually come about? So studies have said our ancestors during the hunter-gatherer stage, they had to heavily rely on their brain to survive. They'd have to identify danger, recognize plants that they can eat, remember routes to the water or any other resources. So they were constantly hoarding information and their brain was usually always stimulated. Today, we as humans, no matter how evolved we are, we still have that ingrained in our DNA to want to constantly stimulate our mind. Every time we learn something new, or we're staying entertained, or we're being stimulated, we get a dopamine hit. And that dopamine hit is the feel-good hormone. No matter how much we've evolved as human beings, this little trait is still in our system. Today we're always chasing that dopamine hit, and it's also quite readily available. So now that we know what boredom is, let's try and understand why we avoid it. There are two main reasons why we avoid it. The first one is discomfort. And as I said earlier, it is in our DNA to want to always avoid boredom and constantly stimulate our mind. Boredom for us is quite an uncomfortable emotional state. It is associated with restlessness, feeling frustrated, and a sense of time dragging. Reason number two why we avoid boredom so much is it is usually associated with unproductiveness. In today's fast-paced society, we're constantly under pressure to appear busy, and boredom is closely related to being lazy, unproductive, and wasting time. Now let's talk about why we should embrace boredom. Science talk. Increased default mode network, DMN activity. The DMN is a network of brain regions that becomes more active when the mind is at rest or not focused on the external environment. So what that means is when you're bored, you start to wander. Your mind starts to wander. Sometimes it can be the future or sometimes it can be the past. And that wandering of the mind, that daydreaming of the mind, increases the DMN activity, which is great for a creative mind. This state is also believed to promote active pathways to your subconscious mind. And the DMN stage cannot be activated when you're sleeping. You have to be conscious, yet relaxed enough to wander. Many studies have shown that people who allow their mind to wander have better working memories. Experiment in Lancaster University, there were two groups of people. One group of people were given a phone book and they were asked to write down phone numbers from that book into pieces of paper. And the other group weren't asked to do so. When they were put together and they were given a plastic cup, they were told to find out as many different ways to use that plastic cup. And the results showed that people who were writing down the phone numbers, doing that boring task, ended up performing much better than people who were not. Many evidences have shown that people who embrace boredom are much more creative than those who are not. Finally, now that we've figured out that boredom is actually very beneficial for our brain, let's figure out how we can embrace it. Tip number 1, allow yourself to be bored without technology. Every time you're bored, don't try to solve it by whacking out your phone, going on that TikTok. Try to embrace boredom. Don't use technology, just let it sit and allow your mind to wander. Tip number 2 is do one task at a time, unless you have to. Many situations we don't really have to, but we do it anyway. This makes us lose focus. We're not focusing on anything. We're kind of a little bit mindless. So always try to do one thing at a time. If you're brushing your teeth, make sure you're only brushing your teeth and not browsing as you do so. If you are waiting for the kettle to boil, wait for that kettle to boil. Don't be on the phone or don't listen to stuff on the side. So stick to one task at a time. Tip number 3 is for children specific. I find myself thinking about children quite a lot now that I have nieces and nephews. So when your child says or complains to you about being bored, celebrate it, secretly celebrate it because it's a good thing. And the last thing you want to do is give them a mobile phone or turn the TV on for them. What you would do rather is ask them, encourage them to think for themselves and ask them what they would like to do to fight the boredom, minus the technology obviously. So these tips I have applied on myself as well. Firstly, I used to find laundry very boring and I used to really avoid it because it was boring. Or I'd do it with headphones in my ears. Now I mindfully do the laundry. I know it's boring, but I embrace it. I still do it and allow myself not to be entertained while I'm doing the laundry. Another big achievement of me embracing my boredom is also my YouTube channel. I mean, I won't say entirely, but it can also be a product of me embracing my boredom. As we're coming to the end, thank you all for watching this video. It really means a lot. Remember, the learning we've uncovered today is just the beginning. Today, I'm not going to ask you to like, comment, or subscribe to my channel. My only ask for you is to turn off your technology pieces for 10 minutes straight, sit, stand, lay, whatever you prefer, stare into the space, and allow your mind to be completely free. See you in the next video.